The person that is meant for you cannot get to you if you are too busy entertaining a man that was never right for you to begin with, and who is genuinely draining the life out of your eyes. Hey guys, so today I want to talk about what I think is genuinely one of the biggest reasons that women end up in relationships that kind of go nowhere, and that is incompatibility. And I know that word and concept kind of gets thrown around a lot, but I don't think it's something that we take seriously enough, even in the slightest. We will spend so much time wondering why it didn't work out, why we keep attracting these people, why things seem to fall apart in the exact same way every single time. And the answer is almost always sitting there, looking you dead in the face from the beginning. We just choose to blindly ignore it. So if you are new here, I'm Nikita, and I talk about relationships and dating from my own personal anecdotes. So let's get into what I mean about incompatibility. The way I would describe incompatibility is a set of morals and values in which you orchestrate your life around. So this could include work, finances, relationship style, politics, religion, family. Those are the big ones. And how I would define incompatibility is people that are not aligned on those core things that are just non-negotiables for them. And obviously it would be ambitious to assume that you could meet someone that would meet all of those categories, in which you are just facing yourself, which I mean, if you find that person, good for you. But for the rest of us, I think you should get comfortable with at least having 4 or 5 of your non-negotiables. And the other ones you can kind of workshop around. And the basic premise of it is, are you two walking in the same direction in your life, towards the same thing? Because if not, you are going to grow in different directions because you were never on the same life path to begin with. And before we get into the ways that I think people misread compatibility, I also want to talk about probably the most important thing about this entire conversation. Because at its absolute core, compatibility is not just about ticking some life boxes. At its deepest level, it is someone's willingness to get to know you, to commit to always learning you, to always growing, to always leaning towards you in their understanding of you. And that willingness, that orientation towards each other, that is the foundation. That is the compatible thing that we are talking about. For example, my number one value is courage. Courage in going after what you want in life, actually making a way and path for yourself that isn't necessarily what is expected of you, being vulnerable in conversations, showing up as your authentic self, choosing connection over pride. These are all very courageous things to do in my mind. If I am with someone who has that same core value, who is willing to be brave enough to surrender to their personal wounds as an attempt to actually continue growing alongside me for the long run, and what we are building together, that's it. That's I've got my compatible person. That is the biggest pillar of compatibility for me. And everything else is just the nice frills of life. And so when I talk about core values, I'm not just talking about religion or politics, as much as those are, sub branches of core values. I mean, how does this person behave when things get hard? Do they run or do they lean in? Because if you are aligned on that, if you both have the same mentality of I'm going to keep leaning in towards you and keep growing towards you, keep choosing you, keep showing up, then most of the other stuff is actually quite figure-outable. And it's the people that aren't willing to do that work, who aren't willing to be courageous in how they show up with you, that are going to be the people that you are incompatible with. Not because of where they're from, what they believe in, how they grew up, but in the way that they show up for you. And that is realistically what we are talking about today. And one of the biggest pitfalls that people fall into is underestimating the importance of compatibility. They just think it doesn't really matter when it really does. And that is largely because people don't actually know these answers for themselves. And then, of course, there is the argument that the more things that you are really concrete about knowing for yourself, that does reduce your pool of people that are compatible with you. So that's a fear, I suppose. Being if I get really clear about what I want and what I'm looking for, then I'm concerned that I'm not going to find someone that will meet those criteria. So then, of course, you go and settle for someone half-baked, basically, and then resentment builds over time because you chose someone that wasn't actually aligned with you from the beginning, and you could have just avoided all of the heartbreak and turmoil if you had just been very clear and go after what you actually want from the beginning. Because if you are not honest with yourself and get aligned with the person from the beginning, it just ends up falling apart anyway. So you may as well save yourself the time and, effort in just being on the same page to start with. And one of the most common ways that people misinterpret incompatibility is that they think compatibility is a personality thing. So it's you're an extrovert, I'm an extrovert. You're an introvert, I'm an introvert. Or you're from a certain area, or you speak a certain language, or you have the same culture. And those are aspects of compatibility, but they are not very important when you are choosing to be in a relationship with somebody. Those are very surface level things. Where you're from, the language you speak, those are non-issues. Those are things that someone can easily learn. You can just easily teach them. you can't necessarily teach someone to be like a good person and how they choose to love another person. Like that is like a ballpark that is so beyond your expertise as an individual. And I think the most dangerous period of dating where women ignore incompatibility is like right in like the guts of it, in the middle of dating. So it's been like a couple of weeks because they are just not thinking about it from the start. And so like you've gone on like 3 or 4 dates, you're having fun, you're seeing him, and you're so swept up in the idea of like, does he like me? Am I having fun? Like, is he going to commit to me? And you are so distracted by your own feelings that you forget to evaluate the man that is in front of you. And by the time you actually then sit down and like fully evaluate the relationship that you found yourself in, it's been like 6 months. Like, the rose-colored glasses are off and it is just all coming out of the woods now. Because the honeymoon phase will wear off. And if you are not aligned on like core things to you, you'll start being like, oh, we keep having the same issues. Like the same things keep coming up again and again. We keep butting heads over the same things. And if you had just been able to stay rational and observe this man and stay like objective in your judgment without the whole like affection, sex, cuddling, mingling, all of that good stuff that like creates chemical bonding, you would have seen this from the beginning. Like that is what truly helps you stay objective. Like, do not underestimate the effects of chemical bonding with a man and how that completely blurs your like objectivity and your evaluative skills. And that is why having separation, like conscious time apart from someone is so crucial, and why you shouldn't hang out with someone or talk to someone constantly throughout the day, every single day, because you need time apart to like actually think for yourself without being clouded by like the oxytocin or like the fun you're having. So like, you need like genuine time to be apart, to be like, is this someone that I want to keep seeing? Like, are there things that are flags to me? Like, how can I have enough time apart for me to like sober up from like the chemical high of it all and to think like rationally again? And separate yourself from the attachment to this person so that your logical brain has a chance to switch on again. And I think some of the things that I have noticed personally that I am incompatible with men, say for example, recently I was seeing a guy and we just didn't view the world in the same way. Like, I'm quite a trusting, on the bright side kind of person. Like, I have been absolutely just crushed by life, but I choose to always think like, I'm going to see the bright side of this. Like, how can I turn this into a lesson? How can this be for my greater good? Like, how can I turn this pain and suffering into something that is worthwhile and meaningful for my personal growth? And having that look on the world is just like completely opposite to someone who, this guy, for example, was very distrusting of the world, quite paranoid, very much like life's out to get me kind of energy. And just like, I just can't respect that. Okay. Because that is like a genuine opposite to how I see the world. And that is clearly incompatible with how I would like to continue viewing life. And I was just like, I can't connect with you. And that was just something that I just could not get past mentally. And so that to me is like a clear like misalignment. And there are obvious ones like religion. So I'm a Christian, so I don't see myself dating a man who isn't a Christian, just because it's like, I'm on my walk with God and it makes it really hard to be closer to God, which is something that I would like if I'm dating a man who isn't, because it's just like, again, it's like having a hobby. Like, if you don't know how to surf and I love going surfing, then it's just like, we can't spend time like moving towards this like goal that we both enjoy. Next, I want to kind of pivot into what it then means to be the one who got away. Okay, so recognizing that you are experiencing some incompatibility with this person, and instead of trying to sit there, white knuckle it and fix it, you can just be the one who got away. Because all of this comes down to someone's willingness to change. And I will die on this hill. I personally believe that people do not change. People only change for themselves and if they have something to gain, right? And typically, men do not change if you stick around because you are not giving them a reason to. You're still there. Him mistreating you hasn't registered in his brain as a bad thing because you're still there. You are still accepting him and his behavior at some sort of level. Like, to him, it obviously isn't that bad. But if you do leave, and the premise is not to think like, oh, if I leave, he's gonna, realize what he did wrong. He's gonna reflect. He's gonna grow. He's gonna think like, I regret it. I miss her. I'm gonna get her back. No, you have to leave expecting that this man will never chase after you and that you will just move on with your life. You have to leave knowing that you will never see this man ever again. Because the idea of this is that he will end up seeing that he did a crappy job because you left, okay? And then hopefully you will be paying this forward somehow to the next woman he will become a better one for. But again, that is unlikely to happen because men aren't historically very reflective in that manner. And like, from a psychological point of view, when someone does walk away from you, you then break the attachment, and then they have the mental space to be like, oh, I royally messed that up so badly that if I ever find a woman as good as this one, I'm going to make sure that I don't screw it up again. Because the pain of losing this woman is enough of a catalyst for me to think, oh, I need to change that so I can experience love again. That is an internal motivator. It wasn't because you were a good enough woman. It's because they selfishly want to find and keep the next good woman that they meet. And again, walking away is benefiting you more than it is anything else, because you are detaching from this man that does not see your inherent value and who cannot comprehend how his actions are affecting another human being negatively. And that is not someone that you want to be with. Plus, the person that is meant for you cannot get to you if you are too busy entertaining a man that was never right for you to begin with, and who is genuinely draining the life out of your eyes. And next, I want to get in why so many women stay instead of being the one who got away. And I think at its core, it is the fear of the situation. Fear that this is the best that they're gonna get, okay? Fear that they're not gonna find anyone better. Or the real fear is that all this time and effort they've put into this person has been a waste. And that is like the sunk cost fallacy, right? Where people are like, I've already given so much of myself to this person, I may as well keep going. And that is literally one of the most damaging mindsets you can have in life and also in relationships, because you are just compounding the pain at that point. And I also think that women stay because they are so addicted to the potential of this person. So they're not actually in love with the person that is in front of them. They're in love with who they could be. Because right now, they actually hate the person in front of them and they want to leave them. But they are so attached to who they could be, which, mind you, the potential you see in someone else is a reflection of what you would do in their shoes, okay? Just because you have a growth mindset and you want to be better and you want to love someone and you want to show them the world does not mean that this other person has ever thought of any of those things, okay? And just because you are projecting that onto another person does not make it real. And that, again, is one of the most painful places to live from, because you are waiting for someone to become someone that they will never be. Because if they thought this magical version of themselves was so great, that they would already be that person, because they see the value of becoming it. But some people are so comfortable in their own misery that they are just fine sitting there and dwelling in it forever. And until women do the internal work to believe that they actually deserve more, they will keep attracting and staying with the same person, just in like a different body every time, because you accept what you think you deserve. If you actually look in the mirror, you are not actually thinking that I deserve more. You think like, oh, someone that is like half baked and needs a little bit of workshopping, that's what I deserve. You don't think that you deserve a whole, complete, functional human being, because probably once in your childhood, or majority with your parents, you had to do a lot of workshopping, you had to do a lot of forgiving, you had to do a lot of explaining, you had to do a lot of meeting halfway. And so that is the attachment that you recognize in love as an adult, that it is your responsibility to undo that and think like, I'm a whole person who knows how to grow and improve on their own, who can see their own flaws, their own places that they get, like there's a gap in their knowledge or compassion for another person, in that you already see what you need to do in yourself. And so you, as a person who is like that, deserves to meet someone else who is also like that. So it's like, you deserve what you are, okay? So just remind that your standards should be like, I can demand this of life because I am already showing up as that person. And also, there is such a massive difference between having a standard and then actually enforcing it. Someone said to me actually recently, they were like, like I've already told them that I don't like tolerate this. I've already explained it like a million times. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you've explained it, but you're still there, aren't you? Yes, you are. You are still seeing this person. And so it's not actually your standard. If it was actually your standard, you would think to yourself, this person is not meeting the standard, and thus I will not keep seeing them. There is a massive difference between saying something and then enforcing it. Announcing a boundary or a standard without actually enforcing it is somehow so much worse, because you are now teaching this person that your words mean absolutely nothing. There are no consequences to the things that you speak into the world. They know that you will say it and then do nothing about it. So moving forward, this person is so much less likely to respect you. And the moment of enforcement is actually like really quiet. It's very just like, you sometimes don't even notice it. Like, people sort of expect it to be this, big dramatic thing. You announcing it, you saying, I'm leaving, I'm done, whatever. But usually it's just like a very silent, like flip. Like, it's just a switch in your brain goes off to be like, you know what? I've seen enough and I'm finished. And you just stop. You just end it. You just say like, actually, I'm finished with this. Peace out. There doesn't need to be some long-winded explanation, okay? You just leave. And what changes internally is that you stop trying to manage someone else's behavior and you just focus on managing your response and your behavior and what you are going to do. And there are definitely some questions in the early stage that you should be asking, but most people are afraid to ask, and I'm going to get into them right now. And the questions that people typically don't ask themselves are like the really unsexy ones. Like, where does this person see themselves living in the world? Do they actually want to get married? Do they want to have kids? How do they handle their finances? How much do they want to work? Like, what is their relationship like with their family? Because that tells you so much about what kind of person this person is and how they are going to show up in relationships with you. You're again evaluating them for how they show up with you. And one of the biggest questions that people typically skip over, or at least women, is you have to ask yourself, can I respect this person? Not do I like them, not do I find them attractive. Do I respect who they are as a human being? Like, are they someone that I truly admire and I think they have things that are admirable about them, about how they show up in the world, how they show up for others, how they show up for themselves? Because without that, I don't care how much chemistry or compatibility that you have, that is going to erode so fast. And I have seen it hundreds of times, if not every single time. When a woman does not respect the man that she is with, she will nitpick, she will become his mother, she will overcompensate, all because she does not believe this man can be functional on his own. And so your respect for them then starts to decrease because you think, well, I can do it, why can't you? And then you have contentment and resentment, and then it all just erodes very fast, as you can see. And one of the main reasons why our judgment is clouded so very quickly in dating is because of shiny new person syndrome. And it's because of what we make a new person in our lives mean, especially if it is someone we are romantically interested in. We think like, oh, this is like a new person, like we're getting along. This must mean that like I can get married, I can have kids, I can go on fun holidays, I can have someone to hang out with on the weekends, I can have someone that talks to me, who listens. Like, we make it mean immediately all of these things, all the benefits for yourself, which also means that you are almost instantly romanticizing this person's role in your life before you have actually learned realistically much about this person. As human beings, we are wired for connection. So when your brain does feel that spark, it does immediately latch onto this person and create a role and space for them in your head. And then it proceeds to make a story around it. And then of course you find yourself like 3 weeks in, barely knowing this person, but it freakishly emotionally invested in what they could mean and how this could pan out for your brain. Because your brain wants to be right. It wants to think, this space that I've made for this person, this must be filled by this human being. And so you just completely lose all ability to be rational because you made it so much larger than it needs to be because you were hoping that this person would become something that you have no evidence for yet. And I have talked a lot about what you can do wrong and like what to look for, but there are a couple really good strategies to just stay like grounded and objective in dating. One of the main ones is to just accept that you are looking at a flawed human being. Just like I'm a flawed human being, you're a flawed human being. We are looking at another flawed human being. And you have to ask yourself, are the flaws that I end up finding out about this person something that I can accept? Knowing that I will in fact find flaws. And don't go searching for flaws, okay? That is not what I'm recommending. I'm just saying that in order to counteract the romanticizing in your brain, you have to think like, oh, this is just a human being. This is not my savior. This is not my future husband. This is not the father of my children. This is just another human being who has flaws and benefits and pros like everyone else. You have to think of them as a rounded human being. And the purpose of like grounding yourself in this stage is just to think about, can I tolerate and enjoy this person's company for the next week? Don't think further than that, just until the next time I'm hanging out with them. And just think like, if this was the last time I hang out with them, how would I feel? Would I feel relieved that it's over because I don't really like them? Or would I be like, oh, I wish I had seen them again? And that's a good like kind of catering. And so that will prevent you from future planning and future, projecting onto this person if you just think, I'm just going to think about the next time that I see them and just only like a week out from now, not thinking like trips you could go on or months ahead or what you might look like or where you might live or what kind of house you'll buy. Just think of in the moment. And one of the benefits about doing this is that it just completely reduces the pressure on the situation and it allows space for there to be more spontaneity, more fun, more just, carefree getting to know someone. And a way that I like to kind of imagine it is that I always imagine like they're like a book or like a textbook and you are, incrementally flipping through the pages, learning more about this person, like how the book is constructed, what the author put in, like other different chapters, like the things that go involved to this book. And you think like, is this a book I would like to bring home with me out of the library and take back with me? Or is this just a book that I can appreciate, that it's not for me and leave it in the library for someone else to come and read and accept and take home. But for the most part, remember that you are in a library and there are other books for you that you can read. And you should be very careful when you are reading the books of other people's lives. The more you flick past the bad things and just skim over it and be like, oh, next, the more invested you are in this book and you think like, oh, but I just want to finish the book. I've already spent this much time reading it. I just want to finish it. But if you had just noted what was the things that you didn't really like in the book and be like, okay, well, that's an information point. This is kind of like a crappy book. Like, I don't really enjoy this book. I'm just going to put this book down and go see if there's another book that I might like a little bit better. Okay, so cut your losses early so that you don't get invested and attached into a book that you're not actually enjoying. A book meaning a human being. And I think self-respect is a massive part about the foundation of all of this. So having the ability to have standards and hold them, recognize incompatibility, all of these things. It comes down to how much you respect yourself and how much at your core you truly believe that you deserve. And so if on a deep level you do not actually believe that you deserve the things that you are asking for, you are going to keep explaining it away. You're going to keep, giving chances to this person. And none of that is actually about the other person themselves. It is about what you believe to be true and valuable for yourself. And so to just really nail this point home is that your standards are not like an intellectual thing. You don't enforce your standards from your head. You enforce them from like a deep embodied cellular level belief that you are worthy of what you are enforcing, that you are worth what you say you are. And when you actually have that internal belief within yourself, walking away doesn't actually feel like a loss. It just feels like making space for someone that is right for you. It is as simple as thinking like, oh, this doesn't feel right for me, so like I'm gonna go. And that is like a completely different energy from forcing yourself to leave because you secretly don't think that you deserve better. So getting to the point where you do truly believe and you see the value of yourself and all of your great characteristics and how you would make a fantastic partner to someone else is the kind of foundation that allows you to quickly walk away from things that aren't aligned with you. And I just want to leave you with one last thing for today. The version of you that knows her worth, that walks away without some grandiose explanation, and who chooses herself before she chooses comfort, that version of you already exists. It is already inside you. You just need to dig her out. And every time that you enforce a standard, every time that you put that book down in the library and pick up another book, every time you choose to see clearly instead of hoping, you are becoming that version of yourself, just like that little bit more. And like, this is not about like disposing of people or like becoming cold, calculated, none of that. It is actually about like the complete opposite. It is about becoming so full and grounded in yourself that anything less than that, you just will not tolerate. And focusing on becoming so secure in who you are and how you show up for others, that when that right person does eventually come along, you genuinely have the capacity to show up for them. And I think that is everything I wanted to cover today. So if this resonated with you, please let me know. Not just like, oh, that was a good video, but like actually sit with it. Actually contemplate what we have discussed today and ask yourself the hard questions you may have been avoiding. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, please send it to them and like the video so that I get the feedback and then I'm somehow supporting all of us. Make sure to subscribe and I love you all and I will see you in the next one.